2023 IMSA season at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, a new top class of prototype cars made its race debut, LMDh, standing for Le Mans Daytona something, H generally being attributed as either hypercar or hybrid. The new LMDh class continues the Daytona prototype emphasis on affordability compared to the ruinously expensive LMP1 era, while still encouraging manufacturer engagement and innovation. With the rule set for DPI being born from the updated 27 LMP2 regulations, with greater allowances made for chassis manufacturers to allow for different engine configurations and distinct bodywork, without extending that freedom to performance-impacting aerodynamics or non-standard vehicle configurations, LMDh was more of a clean sheet rule set, intended to enable integration with the WEC's new Le Mans hypercar class and facilitate an equal level of competition for both at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Unlike hypercar, which allows manufacturers to build custom chassis, those building to the LMDh rule set are still required to start with a chassis from one of a set of pre-approved firms, currently either Dallara, Ligier, Multimatic, or Orica, all manufacturers with long histories of success in racing. There is, however, a greater degree of flexibility in the remainder of the design approach when compared with DPI. Engine choice is the critical hinge upon which system flexibility pivots, with the only absolute restriction being a continued exclusivity for petrol-fueled power plants, diesel having fallen well out of favor since the 2010s. There are power caps and weight minimums, 670 horsepower and 1,030 kilograms respectively, but distinctive manufacturer-specific bodywork and aero is encouraged, with the key ratio of downforce to drag set at 4:1. Hybrid systems are also mandatory, and while early indications were that manufacturers would be permitted to build out their own hybrid systems, the emphasis on affordability led instead to the adoption of a spec hybrid system using components from Bosch, Xtrac, and Williams. The system, which sends its power to the rear wheels, provides about 50 of the horsepower included in the 670 horsepower cap. It is also worth noting that, while bodywork and aero packages are built at the discretion of the manufacturer, they are not able to design multiple interchangeable aero packages to maximize their performance for specific tracks, such as Le Mans. In 2023 competition, 4 manufacturers have entered LMDh: DPI alumnuses Cadillac and Acura, along with BMW and Porsche. Future entries are also expected from Lamborghini and Alpine, intended to start competing in 2024, but time will tell. The 963, along with Cadillac's LMDh, are the 2 vehicles of the current 4 LMDh cars competing in both the IMSA Sports Car Championship and as hypercars in the World Endurance Championship, although all LMDh cars are, in theory, eligible for both race series. We will look at each of these in their own videos, but this video will look specifically at Porsche's entry, the 963. The new 963 is the newest in a long line of successful Porsche prototypes, stretching all the way back to the 917. With a name implying successorship to the long-lived 962, an engine developed from the one used in the hugely successful 2000s RS Spider and 918 road car, and experience carried over from the mid-2010s 919 LMP1 program, the 963 certainly has the pedigree and groundwork laid for a successful LMDh and Le Mans career. One of the other key aspects that has emerged is an increased emphasis in LMDh on the intent to sell customer cars in addition to those used by factory or factory partner teams. Porsche has been arguably the most successful in finding customer commitments among the LMDh manufacturers to date. In addition to factory partner Penske's participation in both IMSA and WEC, Proton Competition has signed up for 2 cars, 1 in each series, and JDC Miller Motorsports and Hertz Team Jota will campaign in IMSA and WEC respectively. The cited price for each 963 came in at $2.9 million apiece, which includes full factory support during races, that is to say, spares, technical consultation, and the like, but not the actual costs of racing. As for the 963 itself, it is built on Multimatic's chassis, currently the only competing or planned LMDh using that chassis. Sister company Lamborghini's LMDh is planned as a Ligier. The vice president of Porsche Motorsport was quoted at the time of that announcement that Multimatic is the most obvious and logical solution for us, owing to Porsche's partnership with the company on numerous 911 models, as well as their significant production capacity. Porsche themselves, of course, designed the bodywork, with styling cues and paint jobs intended to evoke both current road cars in their lineup and Porsche's long motorsports history. As previously mentioned, the 4.6-liter 9RD designated V8 is an evolution of the engine that made its debut as a clean sheet design for the Porsche RS Spyder, competing in LMP2 in the American and European Le Mans series in the mid-2000s, also primarily in partnership with Penske Racing. However, unlike the 3.4-liter power plant in the RS Spyder, the 963's engine retains the capacity expansion from the 918 road car, and now sports low-pressure Van der Lee twin turbos, bringing its power from the RS Spyder's 478 horsepower to around the 620 allowed within the LMDh rules. The remainder of the drivetrain consists of the spec hybrid system and gearbox, while the suspension is, perhaps unsurprisingly, pushrods with double wishbones, as has become effectively de rigueur on modern sports cars. After testing for most of 2022, both at Porsche's private VSOC test track as well as at tracks around the world, including a joint test with Cadillac at Daytona and a grueling 36-hour session at Sebring, it saw over 20,000 miles, or 33,000 kilometers accumulated. The 963's race debut came at the 2023 Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. At Daytona, the Porsches demonstrated strong per-lap performance, chasing the leading Acuras both in qualifying and during the race, but struggled with reliability issues, as is the wont of new vehicles. The number 7 Porsche found itself with a faulty battery and lost 35 laps in the garage while a replacement was fitted, but managed to rejoin the race and finish 7th overall, while the number 6 Porsche remained competitive through the evening and into the morning before being forced to retire due to a gearbox failure. While by no means intended to cast aspersions, it is interesting that both difficulties came from non-Porsche designed parts rather than issues with the more mature components of the drivetrain, such as the 9RD engine. Sebring, however, was an entirely different ball of wax. The two Porsches entered in the WEC 1000 miles race qualified a couple of seconds behind the quickest Ferrari 499P, but early found themselves in the mix to challenge for the podium against the extremely quick lap times of the Ferraris and the experience of the Toyotas and lone Cadillac. The first half of the race went well for the Penske cars, but tire degradation exceeded the team's expectations, and the cars' second stints proved challenging to keep on the pace. Ultimately, while their nominal per-lap pace was respectable, they also struggled with ECU issues and a couple of botched pit stops that kept them out of contention when the checkered flag flew, with Toyota's GR010s scoring yet another 1-2 victory in the World Endurance Championship. In the IMSA 12-hour race, while Cadillac found themselves locking out the front row of the grid, the number 6 Porsche was quickest in the warm-up just before the race, despite a crash that ended the qualifying session early for the GTP cars, and the number 7 Porsche found itself in 4th, sandwiched between the number 10 and number 60 Acuras. Indeed, the race remained equally competitive, and Porsche found themselves in 1st and 3rd place at the 20-minute mark when one of the most unusual racing incidents in recent memory occurred. A small touch between the number 6 Porsche and the number 10 Acura saw the Acura undergo a remarkable transubstantiation to become a Porsche-seeking weapon of mass destruction, with Felipe Albuquerque careening out of control through the grass at turn 4 to take out both the number 6 and number 7 Porsches and collecting a couple of GT cars along the way. All drivers were okay, and the crash was determined to be a racing incident rather than the fault of any team or driver, but it was a heartbreaking blow for all involved, as Porsche looked well poised to take their first victory at Sebring in 15 years. The next races for the 963 in the World Endurance Championship and IMSA Sports Car Championship come almost concurrently on the second full weekend of April. IMSA on the 15th at Long Beach Street Circuit in California, and World Endurance Championship for the 6 hours of Portimao in Portugal. These are only one of 2 more races for each series before the centenary race at Le Mans in June, which will see 16 prototypes competing in the hypercar class for overall victory, including 3 Porsche 963s run by Penske Motorsports. And for this video's call to action not containing the 3 sacred words of YouTube, I present a piece of trivia. Were you aware that your dishwasher and washing machine both have filters that need to be cleaned regularly? If not, there's your call to action. It's probably time to check them and clean them out. If you were aware of this, congratulations! Your call to action is to find the nearest large body of water and go enjoy a sunrise or sunset there at your next earliest available opportunity. Here is my nearest sunset viewing location. Have a good evening, everyone.